So my name is Maureen Garcello. I am an instructional designer with Instructional Technology Services at San Diego State. So that'll foreshadow a little bit about our trajectory and where our program was born, if you will. And I also primarily serve as the supplemental instruction coordinator for our university. We got going in fall 2015. And my dissertation research was on bottleneck courses and blended learning in the Cal State system. And I studied Dr. Mark Lemakis' Psychology 101 class and created these predictive models, all of this linear regression, all of this research. And I'm in front of my committee defending my dissertation. And we get to the end of the presentation, if you will. And my chair says, well, so if you had one thing to say to President Elliot Hirschman at SDSU, what would that be? And 6 months later, I was writing a report that went to President Elliot Hirschman, and I didn't have an answer. It was kind of a so what. And at SDSU, supplemental instruction is the so what. I had the opportunity that very next fall to be hired by San Diego State and to see the birth of supplemental instruction in Dr. Lemakis' Psychology 101 class, and we went from there. So it's been an exciting 4 semesters. We are just getting started. It's funny that Brett would ask everybody whether or not you've been to the Chancellor's office and whether or not you've been in this room. We were doing day 1 introduction for actually the psych class. We've got 500 students in this lecture, and we have all of the SI leaders stand in front of the classroom at the beginning of class. And so this is, day 1, the students are just sitting down, finding their pencils in their seats and starting their semester, and we have all of the SI leaders introduce themselves. And it's nerve-wracking for me because many of these students have never stood in front of 500 of their peers, let alone on the first day of school, and sometimes these are brand new SI leaders. And so we go into the classroom, and the SI leaders are standing there. I've got a first semester SI leader, and she stands up there and goes, and just looks around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my baby, like, how do I rescue her? And she said, I'm just taking it in. And she takes like this very calming moment, and the class kind of gets quiet, and she goes, I've never stood in front of this many people, so I'd like to take advantage. And she advances, like now she's like Brittany on the stage, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now what's going to happen? She says, I'm wondering if we could just do the wave. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so getting fired. This is the worst. And she got this class of 500 total strangers on the first day of class to do the wave. We're not going to do that, with all deference to the Chancellor and his space. But it was a really nice way to break the ice and for our SI leaders to introduce themselves and truly make an impression in that classroom. So that's the quality of leader and the team that I have the honor of working with. All right, where do I point this thing? Okay. So we originated as an answer, if you will, or a potential solution that came out of the strategic plan. So our Building on Excellence strategic plan is a presidential initiative, and they created a learning analytics working group. And the goal of the learning analytics working group and from the strategic plan was this resolution to address student success and improve student success using learning analytics. Okay, so we've got this group now, and they put together some partnerships. So we are nested within academic affairs. Most of the members of the Learning Analytics Working Group are also nested within academic affairs, but we also have colleges on this committee. We have the Division of Undergraduate Studies, they mentioned. Dean Schellenberg, Stephen Schellenberg, is an incredible advocate for supplemental instruction. He is our Associate Dean of the Division of Undergraduate Studies, and our Director and the Chief Academic Technology Officer, James Frazee, who is my boss. So we've got this group of people. They convened created some relationships on campus, very strategic. These are not easy relationships to forge. Getting the libraries into the mix, forming a relationship between academic affairs and student affairs, those aren't easy tasks. But now we've got this group of people and launched supplemental instruction. So this is fall 2015. We've got one course, Dr. Lemakis. We had 9 leaders. So 2 of our original leaders are here, Tessa and Anne. And I start on August 17th. On August 18th, we begin training. And at the end of training, they say, okay, these are your 9 SI leaders, go to it. The next semester, so that spring, we just about doubled in size, took on some more courses. Now we've got 3 courses. Fall of the next year, another growth spurt. And now we're planning on 51 SI leaders to serve more than 4,500 students a semester for this coming fall. Tasha mentioned this Band-Aid solution, this Band-Aid approach. We live in the Band-Aid box. Okay, we are year to year. Every year I manage the expectation with our leaders, all of our partners, that at any one time, it is to be expected that we are on the brink of extinction. So let's do this. Let's get all of the data. Let's deliver these results. Let's analyze everything and make sure that we manage the expectation with all of our partners so we can live another semester and continue to help these students. And it's actually benefited us quite a bit. And now we're picking up steam. We have a lot of support from partners, including the Chancellor's Office, which are helping to keep us in existence and in business. So what's interesting about our program is that many programs have come to be because the institution has adopted supplemental instruction and then they measure it. The Learning Analytics Working Group identified supplemental instruction because it was something to measure. So they needed analytics to be generated somehow. And in a very crude way, I liken this to a virus needing a host, right? So the virus needs someplace to live. Mark, though, is Dr. Phillips is the scientist here, though. I could be terribly wrong. But the learning analytics needed a place to live. We needed something to measure. And so that's where we're coming from, this second square here, the second half of the square. Now, it didn't just come out of thin air. A lot of research informed the decision to select supplemental instruction in particular to beta at SDSU to really try to prove the concept at San Diego State, including trigger research. So the Learning Analytics Committee working group tried this trigger research. So if you weren't going to class, they could see that on Blackboard. You know, they run your course activity reports. They can see it on Blackboard. And Dr. Lemakis, he's the crash test dummy for all projects at SDSU because he's got 1,000 students a semester, just about, between 700 and 1,000 students every semester. So the N is beautiful. We can measure everything. It's mostly always significant, and then we can really put it to the test from there. But they tried this trigger approach, which sent a semi-customized message to students saying, hey, Christian, we noticed you weren't in class today. Really miss you. Hope you come back on Wednesday. And the students just totally saw through that. They were like, all right, so Blackboard's just kicking out these messages. So they went with a little bit more customized approach from there. And they found that the outcomes were not statistically significant. And what's amazing about this group and also the way our SI program works, because we are constantly stewarding these funds, we have a fast fail approach. So if something doesn't work, we move on. And one day we may be able to afford a little bit more leeway to really see if something works or doesn't work. But at this juncture, if it doesn't work, we move on. And we've been pretty successful in justifying those because of the way we measure things, those maneuvers. So because SI was born in ICS, we use a lot of technology. We incorporate a lot of course redesign. And we are afforded the opportunity to really offer faculty a suite of services rather than we are going to do SI in your class. We want to offer SI in this, high challenge course. We're able to, and I'll discuss more of this later, in my, all these plugs for our sessions. So in my session, recruiting faculty and students, and also training them for success. I'll get more into this. But we're able to come to the department chairs, come to the faculty and say, we would like to offer this suite of services. They include gradebook optimization, some course redesign elements if you're interested in doing that. We've been able to incentivize a lot of our faculty to formalize those relationships as well through the CRT program at the Chancellor's office. And so we appreciate that support. And SI is an integral part of that, including a host of learning analytics that they get back, and a lot of information that informs their course. So we use a lot of technology. We have these beautiful learning research spaces, the learning research studios that Dr. Frazee has set up with his learning spaces team, done a lot of research on best practices in those spaces. Band-Aid approach, we totally get the leftovers. If something is missing, there were whiteboards missing the other day from one of our shared spaces, and they were like, Maureen has them. She steals everything. So I need everything. It's just beg, borrow, and steal. And so when that, those classrooms are available at the very, very end, we're doing the scheduling until midnight the night before classes begin. That's how we operate. And it's been successful thus far. We look forward to a little bit, more runway, but right now it works. We have everything digitized because we grew so fast. Everything is online. We use Qualtrics. We use a product called Presence that I'll discuss later this afternoon that gives us the ability to just swipe students' red IDs as they walk in the door. We were using these things called Yosu card readers. It's just like a cheap, like $18 device you can get on Amazon. And that was feeding into a Google form in Google Docs. So we were able to analyze the student red IDs. And for those of you who are investigating these programs, the faculty aren't there and they don't know who attend the sessions, but we do. And so that's part of that acculturation is, okay, Dr. Lemakis won't know that you attended, but I need your red ID. And what we share with those students is that this is how it's funded. So that's the currency in all of this. That's kind of what you pay when you walk in the door. Is you give us your red ID, and the students are very good about it. They'll actually just, put them on the desk in the front of the room, and the SI leaders will swipe them. That gives us the opportunity to merge those data with their demographic data, with their gradebook data, and do the analysis from there. So what did we do next? Okay. Again, I was talking about this with Kathy. You've got Fullerton, who've rounded the bases a number of times. You've got Fresno, who've definitely hit some home runs. They're right there. I told Kathy, we're on first, like trying to steal second. So we're like threatening the shortstop right now. We've got this baby program. And I also said it sounds like Chico's on deck. So you guys are gearing up. So we've got this somewhat baby program, but we have these huge classes. So it's great because we can do a lot with not as much. And we, again, have this fast-fail approach, fail fast approach. So you can see that Staff 250 had 20% of the class participate in at least one session. That wasn't good enough. That wasn't good enough in terms of the stewardship of our funding. I'm running the numbers, I'm looking at the ceiling, I'm looking at the floor. In terms of the cost, do I really want to go to James, to Stephen, to, our vice presidents and say, well, for every student who visited, it cost the university about $80 per visit, per session. I couldn't do that. Not at this point. I couldn't do that. There were some disconnects with the course design. It just wasn't a good fit. So we moved on. We looked at the student surveys. They send out these surveys at the end of the semester. What classes, if any, would you like to see SI offered in next semester? And organic chemistry just took over the survey. 232, please, my SI leaders are begging for OChem support for SI. We went to the faculty, and in the spring, we moved from Stat 250 to Chem 232, and it has been extremely successful. So this is a sample SI performance slide, and again, I'll touch on this a little bit more this afternoon. We take a very high-touch concierge approach with our faculty. If you want, how many faculty members are in here? Okay, so you know how exciting it is to have somebody mucking around in your grade book, having students you don't know in your course, speaking to students you don't know that well offline, and you're not allowed to be there. I mean, that takes a lot of trust and understanding. So we bring our data, we bring our A game, we bring our very vetted, very well-trained SI leaders. And then we do everything in our power to make sure you don't have to do anything else other than it's Monday, the exam was Wednesday of last week, and you come into the classroom and say, okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes to talk about supplemental instruction and why you should go. This is exam 3. You have the final left. Some of you are probably calculating your scores to see how far and above beyond an A you have to get to pass this class. Let me help you get there, or at least get some good study in before you retake this class again. Okay? So the green represents students who attended supplemental instruction. We also do a threshold analysis. Students who attend, not at all, 1, 3 or more, 1 to 3, or 1, 2, 3 or more, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got our buckets, but we can see that it is statistically significant, and that students who attended SI consistently received higher grades than those who didn't attend SI. And then on the other side of the scale, it goes down. So it's easy. You just provide them with the report. I also provide them with a much deeper statistical analysis and like a cumulative report. So if they're interested, they can get into that. It's data I'm already generating and analyzing. So we also wanted to look at the demographics of our program. And again, we started really quickly. So even though we didn't have a lot of resources, we had to build our case very, very quickly and make sure that we were presenting this to our executive leadership, our administration, and then also to our faculty. And we wanted to kind of slice and dice the data to see what the representative populations look like. So were they proportionate? So if we've got, yeah, I think that's the word. So we've got proportionate representation in many of these categories. So if you see there are 302 participants in the subpopulation of the total class, which happens to be 800, nice round number there. All of these are divided by 800. All of these numbers, these frequencies are divided by 302. And then these are the percentages of those students who attended. And you can see first generation, some parent college, pretty even, 28% in the class, 24% represented in the SI attending population. So this is kind of where we started our demographic analysis and demographic breakdowns. And I can share, well, you'll have all of these slides and I can share more on this later. We also noticed that commuter students are underrepresented in this population. Just because supplemental instruction is voluntary doesn't mean it can't be targeted. So to make sure that you're maybe just putting posters in the commuter student lounge, meeting with advisors who are working specifically with commuter students and making sure that there's information out there that commuter students are encountering on a regular basis isn't disallowed in all of this, okay? We want to make sure that they see it as often as possible. I'll get a little bit more into selection bias this afternoon, but you know, when you're trying to convince faculty that students are going to go to this program voluntarily, a little bit of ego involved. It's like, well, they don't come to my class, so I'm pretty sure they're not going to come to your voluntary peer-led program or whatever this thing is. So the first thing that we encountered was, what about selection bias? These kids who are already doing well are going to be the only ones who attend your classes. I did not have an answer to that. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to dedicate all of my time and energy to at least trying to address this answer. We've got the Department of Education report, we've got the Dawson and Arendale research, we've got a lot of information that says SI works. There wasn't anything, you know, specifically in experimental design that really said, without a doubt, the effect is attributed to supplemental instruction. So we did it. so we did that research. We wrote up the paper. The paper will be out in October. And what we did is we utilized course and exact matching, which is akin to propensity score matching. It's kind of this post hoc, pseudo-experimental work that you can do with existing data. And what it does is it quiets that covariate imbalance, because of course you've got the Christians and the Tessas and the Anns attending these SI sessions. They are extremely high-performing students. They did well in high school. They got high SAT scores. Those students are there. But we were also able to quiet this covariate imbalance and then run regressions to see whether or not SI attendees had significantly higher grades than those who did not attend, and they did. So we were very happy to see the outcomes. And that's for one class and one semester. And it took a lot of work, but we're trying to figure out how to streamline that, make it available to the other campuses so you guys can do that work as well without it sounding as inaccessible. This I'll go over this afternoon. We've got this iterative piece now that we're incorporating into supplemental instruction. Like I said, we're offering this suite of services. So you've got some course design, redesign, or just optimization opportunities. You've got Blackboard Predicts, so we're actually trying to formalize the predictive analytic research that we've been doing all along and kind of on the backs of graduate students. I've been doing some of that work, and it's been very manual. Now we have the opportunity to formalize and scale that research to be able to give students more power over their future so they can kind of see it coming. Our faculty love it. Even the most recalcitrant faculty members have come on board and seen how beneficial this program is for their students, how good it is for their students, and our SI leaders enjoy it as well. So I came from external affairs, marketing and communications in external affairs. I am the worst SI marketer you've ever seen. Our logo was a total afterthought. Our flyers, anything creative has just been just not on my radar. But our SI leaders, and we work with counseling and psychological services. They help with our quality control and our observations. And so I put out a call for funny memes. We land these in the hands of students 2 seconds after they receive their tests back. And see, I don't even know who this is. What is this, Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones? Lord of the Rings? Okay. All right. So you can see we do bring a little bit of humor into it. The SI leaders wanted to make sure that we put every single one of their names and every single one of the sessions on these bookmarks that we handed out. They have so much pride in this program, and they want to make sure that everybody knows about their program, their time, and to give students the opportunity to study with them. They pride themselves on having their regulars and then also using their regulars as mini experts to help new students and welcome them into that community. Thank you so much, and good luck. For those of you starting out, we were built on the shoulders of giants, and I know that you guys will all have successful programs. It's just too good to fail.